Hello and welcome to the Big Three podcast with Adarsh and Adam. We have a whole host of different topics to discuss today, and well, starting off, we'll discuss about the IPL GC ratifications. First of all, good morning, Adam.
Good morning.
Yeah, so I'll list the ratifications as they were announced a few days back. The IPL franchisees can retain a total of 6 players from their existing squad. It is at the discretion of the IPL franchisees to choose their combination for retentions and RTMs. The retentions can have a maximum of 5 Indian players and 2 uncapped players. The auction purse for the franchisees has been set at 120 crore, and well, there are a few regulations, and the most important one from this announcement is that any overseas player will have to register themselves for the big auction. In case they don't, they will be ineligible for the next 2 years. And if someone registers themselves and does not turn up, then they'll be banned for the next 2 years too. And the last rule is that a capped Indian player will become uncapped if the player has not played for 5 years for the Indian team. What do you make of this?
Well, it's really interesting stuff. I think two things stick out for me. Number one, I think from a fan's perspective and a player perspective, it's actually from a fan perspective and a player perspective and an entertainment perspective, it's actually the right thing. Um, because you you couldn't have a situation you had maybe with someone like Jason Roy. You don't want people like pulling out, and then uh, there's a lot of players picking and choosing, and I know that that's their right, but there's also the other side of the coin where you want to be able to rely on a certain number of players to play, and maybe to and not to be kind of sabotaged or jeopardized by players continually pulling out, and there being no way of actually uh, no way of kind of no stick or carrot to get them to play. That they were too free to pull out willy nilly. So that I think that's an improvement. So I'd actually congratulate them on that. The other point is um, that this could be a move away from boards having control to franchises having control, and that's the other interesting side of this: the emergence of the actual franchise owners taking more control away from the board and kind of acting independently from them. So these measures seem like they're just brought in by franchise owners rather than the actual board itself, and I think that's an interesting development too.
Yeah, yeah,
How about you?
yeah, you're correct. I think that the most, like, as you have mentioned, the biggest change will be for players like, there have been players like Harry Brook, Jason Roy, and
Yeah,
before that, Australian players as well, like Travis
yeah,
Head and Mitchell
mm,
Stark. People have registered themselves but not turned up because they didn't get the amount of money they were expecting. Like,
mm,
if someone went for 2 crore, they didn't
yeah,
come, they didn't turn up. Stark has registered himself for 5 years and didn't turn
yeah,
up once. So that you can imagine, like,
yeah,
these teams have plannings before the auctions where they, like, a player like Mitchell Stark is the
yeah,
core of their team, and around
yeah,
that they plan everything. And
yeah,
and
yeah,
if he does not turn up, then that messes up everything. So
yeah,
according to me, this has been a positive move, but
yeah,
I didn't like the move where the foreign players are not allowed more than 18 crores of salary, or their their money is decided by Indian players, which I think is a
yeah,
restriction of trade. Although
mm,
although there's a rule in the IPL which says that you can pay the player more than or less than what they have been sold in the auction for, but I
yeah.
think this is infringing the rules of trade. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean that whenever people talk about salary caps or wage caps in Premiership football, when they suggest it, they always talk about the idea of an infringement of trade, and I think it's the same here. Um, I'm not I'm not massively against it, but I wonder legally if what the ramifications are. Can you do that, or could someone challenge that
I,
in the
I
court?
I think you can have an auction, but what they have done is, I'll tell you the exact thing, is
Mm,
the Indian player, the if an Indian player goes for 18 crores, then
Yeah.
only can a foreign player get 18 crores. So the
Mm,
maximum amount of money an Indian player gets,
yeah.
that's the maximum an overseas player
Yeah.
can get. And after
Yeah.
18 crores, the overseas player won't get anything. That will go to a player welfare fund. So I think that's a bit of a gray line as to what they
Yeah.
have done. And I don't think it should have been done because they have
Mm,
more than enough money, and
mm.
that gives out the wrong message.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think? What's the positive side of it? Just that they're promoting Indian cricketers, I suppose. Um,
Um, I think
and
it's nothing more than just a PR move, or
yeah.
just trying to. I think they're just really upset. If you
Mm,
saw the discourse after the IPL when Mitchell Stark
yeah.
got sold, I didn't
Yeah.
understand the outrage. People were
Yeah.
saying Stark does not deserve that money. Okay, maybe
Yeah.
he does not do it does deserve it
Yeah.
objectively, but
Yeah.
if he's been paid that, he deserves the
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
And Anthony in the Premier League receives $100 million,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
no one's speaking like he should get a 50 million cut. He's got
Yeah.
that. You should not
Yeah.
remove that. So I think that's unfair. In the last rule which I mentioned to you, it says
Yeah.
that an uncapped Indian player will become a capped Indian player will become
Yeah.
uncapped if he does not
Yeah.
represent India for 5 years. Now this is just for MS Dhoni, so we can
Is
consider
that just brought about for him? I wondered why that was.
Yes, exactly, for him. So now he's an uncapped player. All right, we'll discuss. He's not played
Yeah.
for India till now.
That's really funny.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah. Go on.
but now you pointed out the good side of this, and also the idea of you not wanting to be sabotaged by someone pulling out at the last minute. Is there any talk about some of the foreign players that come in and don't really play? So that they haven't pulled out, but they just turn up and they don't do anything. So I remember Archer going there and getting injured. I remember in 2023, Stokes went there. He must have played 2 games. He stayed right up until the semi-finals or the playoffs, and it literally played 2 or 3 games. And every time I'd put the game on to see him, and he'd just be on the bench drinking Red Bull, and it was really funny. So I don't know, is there any is there any kind of plans, or have they had any plans to try and maximize like the utility of these foreign players, or uh, is there no way of doing that? Can someone just come along and just sit on the bench and drink Red Bull and get paid money?
I guess if they're injured, then they can't do anything, right? They can't force the player
Yeah,
into the field. Uh, um,
yeah,
they had a stipulation in there which you've mentioned, so I'll just say that uh, they will not ban the player if
mm,
there's legitimate reason for them not to
yeah,
come, like if they are injured.
yeah,
But I think there's a bit of a mishap there where the injury reporting will come
mm,
from the home board. So suppose
yeah,
if Ben Stokes is injured, then
yeah,
the ECB will tell the BCCI
mm,
that he's injured. But I think that's a bit gray because the ECB will not want Ben Stokes to go and play for the IPL
yeah,
if there's a
yeah,
World Cup coming up. So I think
yeah.
they should have made it an independent group of medical advisors for that.
And also, is it a new injury? Because there's guys like Stokes or Archer who continually got these injuries, and they sometimes play with them, sometimes don't. Um, so does that count as a new injury, or do you just start from a clean slate? But I wouldn't. I wonder how you kind of judge that, because some of these players are just have constantly got like a injury problems, and they need a bit of rest, and then they can play again. But the injury's still there, really.
Yeah, so I think that they'll just have a assessment
Yeah,
from the host board, and if they give the green light, then they'll be allowed to play. And I think once
okay.
they come to the IPL, if
Yeah,
if they are not adjudged fit, then they'll
mm,
get the money. That's not an issue. I think they get
yeah.
when you're injured, you get your money, and when you're dropped, you don't. I think it's something like that in the IPL.
Ah, okay. And
Yeah.
then what? Because what was the criteria for picking? For some of these players, you wonder, are they picked for reasons other than just the cricket performance? Because
Yes.
say with Stokes at his best would be great in the IPL. But Stokes in recent years has been suffering from injuries, doesn't bowl as much now. Um, so in a way, objectively, James Vince would be better than Ben Stokes in the IPL. He would score more runs,
Obviously.
but he's not a big name. So um, is it almost like just like having a film star over, or
Yes,
even
exactly.
like having Hulk Hogan or Shawn Michaels in wrestling. Even if they're not doing anything, it's just great to see them there. And and is it? Do they take that into account, and do they make money from merchandise maybe and things like that?
Yeah, you have hit the nail on the head because if you see Mitchell Stark, he went for 24 CR. People were, I'll just give his example for now. So
Yeah,
people were saying that Stark is very unpredictable and he does not perform regularly. He's a six
yeah,
foot eight Australian. He's white
yeah,
and he's
yeah,
muscular. He sells in
yeah.
India. So it's not just a cricketing buy, it's a commercial buy.
Mm,
He contributes to the Kolkata Knight Riders brand and the IPL brand. When you see
yeah,
a big fast bowler running in
yeah,
from
yeah,
Australia, that gets the viewership going. So I think it
yeah,
was just as much as a commercial buy as it was a cricketing pick. So I completely agree with you. There are a lot of people who don't get in the teams. Like if you see RCB,
mm,
it's not, and it's nothing but a player management company because
yeah,
it's they have I don't know if you know the names there. They just sign a bunch of superstars and get them at
yeah,
endorsement deals.
yeah,
Yeah, so I think as the IPL is touted to be, it is an entertainment product. It's not a cricketing product. So
yeah.
I think you were spot on there with that.
Because there are some players. I don't know, David Milan. Sorry, his T20 record. I think at one stage was the best of all time. Like you know those ratings they do. He had the best rating in international T20 cricket. I don't know, like as a percentage or whatever. Um, but no, I can't see any franchises preferring him to Stokes. It's a bit funny because he's like less of a name. But if you just were looking at runs, you would pick him, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
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 it's a
you
funny
would.
one.
But that's the thing. They have just made it a media thing, the Bollywood fusion, and that's why you cannot have that. Um,
Yeah,
so now, in the same regard, I think there's a
yeah,
big change that's coming in the cricketing world where the BCCI is losing some of its power to the franchise owner.
yeah,
if
yeah,
if you see over the years, they have been the controlling power. They dictate everything that happens in cricket. But now
yeah,
that people like Mukesh Ambani, like the GMR group, which just bought Hampshire in
yeah,
county cricket, and
yeah,
well, there is Shah Rukh Khan, and there are a few other people, the
yeah,
Rajasthan group and the Sunrisers. They have a lot of franchisees bought everywhere, and
yeah,
when they have so much control over the cricketing calendar, how it's shaped
yeah,
and how people where people want, they control the supply and the demand basically. And when you
yeah,
control that, then the BCCI will definitely lose some of its powers. And I think
yeah,
this could be a positive move because I think that businessmen are better at controlling sport than greedy politicians. What do you think?
yeah, yeah. They are. Oh, they definitely are, and they can definitely promote things better. I suppose the only problem is it could lead to further sidelining of international cricket. So when they're talking about, using the English example, private investment in the 100,
Yeah,
if private investors take charge, and they'll run it much better, obviously, but they might run it in a way where it's detrimental to not only the domestic game but also to the international summer. So they're almost like what they're doing now, where England aren't playing India in August next year. Last year we didn't play Australia in August, so you have a great month like August where the kids are off from school, and there's no the kind of the stellar test matches aren't being played then. And I fear more of that with private investment, where um, uh, good international games won't be protected in the way they're not massively protected now, really, but even less so when there's private investment involved.
yeah, you're correct on that, and I think that stems from basically the messed up cricketing calendar that we have. And
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
if you do not have a structure, then they are going to take up the prime months because they are the only things which are available. And
yeah,
if you see, I think there was a very valid point made yesterday that the Lancashire group, the Lancashire
yeah,
team, the Oval
yeah.
Invincible, no, not the Manchester Originals. Is it something like that?
Yeah, they're sponsored by McCoy's.
Yeah.
Yeah, the man. Yeah,
So the Glazers are trying to buy the Manchester
yeah,
Originals because
yeah,
uh, that apparently connects to Old Trafford, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe has bought the Man U team. So they
Yeah.
want some sort of connection back to the
Yeah.
Old Trafford, and I think there's some sort of linkage going on in there.
Yeah, because I think the Glaziers own a franchise in Dubai, don't they, or sort of somewhere like that?
Yes, yes, the Desert Vipers.
Yeah, the Desert Vipers. So it would make sense. I think that I I heard that they actually they do attend those games and they do like watch the whole thing as well. It's not like they just turn up for 5 minutes or something.
Yeah,
So they do seem interested in it.
yeah, yeah, they were interested in it, but well, you're correct. Unless there's a proper cricketing calendar in place,
Yeah,
cricket cannot exist like it is currently or it has been. With that
yeah,
said, I think we can move on perfectly to our
mm,
next topic, which is
yeah,
on the World Test Championship and a cricketing window. So
yeah,
I have a window which I have thought,
mm,
which I think should be implemented. It basically goes
yeah,
like this, that
yeah,
you'll have an ODI or
mm,
T20 World Cup every 2 years.
yeah,
That
yeah,
essentially means that you'll have a one of them running every 4 years. And there will
yeah,
be a qualifier in between the years. And
yeah,
in a World Cup year, there will be 4 months of test cricket and
yeah,
for 6 months of franchise cricket. So franchise
yeah,
cricket will run for 6 months every year. In a
mm,
non-World Cup year, Test cricket will be for 5 months, and in a World Cup year for 4 months. So
yeah,
now that that's sorted out, for World Test Championship, it will run for 4 years, not 2 years, because I think that's not long enough. A
yeah,
4 year cycle with three divisions, and the first division will have India,
yeah,
England, Australia, South Africa, New Zealand, and Sri Lanka. Is that six?
yeah, or yeah, England, Australia, India, New Zealand, Sri Lanka, Pakistan as well, maybe.
Yeah, Pakistan. So
Or,
that's,
yeah, or South Africa.
yeah, I think I said South Africa, India,
Okay, yeah, so maybe you had India, England, Australia,
South
New
Africa.
Zealand, South Africa, Sri Lanka. Yeah, yeah, you've got six. That's
Yeah,
great.
six. And then the next one will be Bangladesh, West
Mm,
Indies, Afghanistan,
mm,
Zimbabwe, Ireland.
yeah, yeah,
And the third division will be, third division can make themselves up. It's basically
yeah,
Scotland, Netherlands,
yeah,
Kenya,
yeah,
USA, Nepal, and Namibia. And
yeah,
there'll be a structure beneath this, like a
yeah,
semi-pro structure through which people,
yeah,
all countries can get up above. And for
yeah,
all of this to happen, I suggest eradicating test status, because I
yeah,
think it's just a private boys club tag and it should not exist
mm,
as of now. And
yeah,
all of this will be accompanied by a promotion and relegation system, because
yeah,
otherwise it's just a closed book and closed library,
yeah,
no one can enter in. And
yeah,
well, you'll have equal number of home and away games, and you'll
mm,
have 3 or 5 match series. So
mm,
it runs like that, and then the final will be played in a 5 match series in differing
yeah,
venues. Suppose the
yeah.
first test will be in Melbourne, second in Lords, third in Johannesburg, fourth in Kolkata, and fifth in Jamaica. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
my entire proposal. I'll tell the benefits. But
Yeah.
what do you think of it?
I think it's a good idea. I think broadly, that is the way forward. Um, the one thing is, it's interesting that you'd abolish test status. That's a very kind of radical change. Um, so rather than just giving Scotland, Holland, and Nepal, USA test status, you just abolish it anyway. You just abolish it, so no one's got test status in a way. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's really radical. But that would be interesting. There's countries like the USA and Canada that have a lot of potential. If you
yeah,
look at the USA in the T20 World Cup, they were very good. I know they had a lot of kind of people who were playing for the Indian under 19 side or under 21 side, but that's America. America's a country that has always prided itself on immigration, so that's not like a contradiction for America. And I think them in Canada have got like a higher ceiling than maybe Namibia. Um, so as Namibia changes, I think it'd be less cricket orientated, whereas I think America and Canada can grow more into cricket. So it would be great to get those two involved, and within a few years they could get promoted and then promoted again. That wouldn't shock me. So that I think that's really good, and the it's good that it's not a closed shop. I suppose the other question it raises, there are some kind of marquee series that might not happen. So if England were in a different division to Australia, would you still have the Ashes? Could that be played on the side, or the only Test cricket that's being played would these would this three division structure be the only Test cricket played, or could England still play the Ashes, or if India were in a different division to Australia, still play the BGT? Um, and if ever the government agreed, could India still play Pakistan if they were in different divisions in a separate series, or would it have to be within this league and no other series?
I think it would have to be within this league
Hmm.
because otherwise it's just
Okay.
a farce, right? Because in football, Italy didn't qualify for the World Cup, I think,
Yeah.
2022. So they didn't just force them into the World Cup for the sake of it. So
No.
I think,
No.
yeah. So I think you do not have the Ashes, but I do not
Yeah.
see it being a real possibility that England go
Yeah.
down unless Basball carries for 5 more years. Then that
Yeah.
may just go to semi-pro, but we'll
Yeah.
not entertain that right now. I think that's not a possibility for now.
Yeah.
But if in case that does happen, we'll just not have the Ashes for 2 years, I guess.
Okay. So, and then there's other kind of series that. So maybe I don't. Maybe say Sri Lanka in the first division, but England make more money playing the West Indies or Pakistan, say, who are in the second division.
Yep.
Would a board be annoyed that we get more money from getting the West Indies or Pakistan over viewership wise, ticket sales wise than we do with Sri Lanka? Um, would they feel aggrieved? Would that be like an obstacle?
I think that there's a solution for this, which I forgot to
Yeah,
mention, that
yeah,
there will be a 2 month or 1 month Champions League running in the franchise cricket window, and
yeah.
that will be used to subsidize Test cricket. So that,
Okay.
yeah, that money that will generate billions of dollars in money. So that will be more than enough for cricket to survive,
Yeah,
Test cricket. So that will be used to subsidize Test cricket, and well, football games are played, so they do not see which games are most profitable and just make
yeah.
Israel and Palestine play in the groups. They do not do that
No, no.
because that's in conflict. So I think
Yeah,
that should not happen, and the money generated from the Champions League will be enough to subsidize it. And
yeah,
there will be a time after sustained periods of marketing, and when the audience gets involved, then you won't
yeah,
need to subsidize it again. And after that, I
yeah.
think it can take care of itself.
Okay, yeah. No, that would definitely be the way forward. Do you think there's any will or desire for this to happen from like the ICC or the boards?
Well, yeah, that's a very important thing for this to for why this hasn't happened yet, because
Mm.
well, the current cricketing calendar as it exists, it is
Yeah,
chaotic and no one knows
yeah,
when to watch anything. So we
yeah,
both know that if it's structured, then there'll be a lot of benefits. People are going to
yeah,
be able to know when things are happening.
yeah,
Cricket will have a rebirth. But why this
yeah,
won't happen is because when there's a lot of chaos, then people
yeah,
are able to, well, uh, get away with stuff. They're not
yeah,
held accountable for things which they should be. Like for
yeah,
example, the BCCI or the ICC, they should be
yeah,
held accountable for
yeah.
what, Zimbabwe and Ireland. When was the last time Zimbabwe played India in a test match? They've been. Do you remember the last time they played India in a test match?
I remember them playing them in 2005. Um,
I wasn't
I,
even
I,
born then, so
yeah, that's they must have done beforehand, but that's the last one I remembered. There was like a two-test series in 2005.
yeah. So they
Um,
haven't played since then. It's a fast system structure right now. It does not work, and unless there's a cricketing calendar where people can pinpoint where the faults are, it just
yeah.
won't work. And I for
And But also, when they play sides like that, they've now got into this habit, the biggest sides of reducing the days to 4 days. You would have noticed that as well. Like when we play Ireland, we just make it a 4 day test. When South Africa plays Zimbabwe, it's a 4 day test. Next year, when England plays Zimbabwe, it's a 4 day test. It's a bit weird. It still counts as a test, but they've just. It's strange that you can have a 5 day test and a 4 day test, and it still counts as a test. There's no like standardized number of days, but I don't know. Do you think that's a bit strange?
Yeah, I think it's a bit strange. I would have 5 day test matches
Yeah,
standardized because
yeah,
well, it's very confusing, right? You do not want a new viewer to be more confused than
Yeah,
they already are. I
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
know that if the game rains for the first 2 days,
yeah,
then the follow-on changes from 200 to 100. I did not know that.
yeah,
Did you know
yeah.
that?
Not in a 4 day game. It's 150 if the first day's rained off, isn't it, for the follow on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Um.
it's already very confusing, and if you make it different, then it just does not work. And I think there were a few changes which you suggested in the last podcast as well,
Yeah.
like playing on with a little bit of rain and playing with,
Yeah.
because it's not dangerous anymore. You're not playing on uncovered wickets. They are
No.
they are batting paradises most of the time. Just use a ping ball and get on with it.
Yeah. Definitely. And do you think it's a bit kind of half-assed in a way where they say yeah we want to encourage new teams to play, so they a side will play Zimbabwe or Ireland or someone, but then they won't give them the full 5 days. They just give them 4 days um, as like a warm up to another series, and it's kind of over before you've even known it, and that's it. And
Yeah,
so they haven't put any effort into really. They've just gone. They've given them a 4 day match, smashed them in 3 days, and that's it.
yeah, it's a bit of PR work, right?
Yeah,
You'll see everyone in the cricket fraternity is saying the same thing. Test cricket and
yeah,
cricket needs to be saved. But the
yeah.
people who actually need to do something, they won't do anything. They'll just
No,
line up their own pockets and then leave. Everyone says the same thing. People in Sky, people
yeah,
in Star Sports, people in
yeah,
Fox, they
yeah,
say the same thing, but nothing actually comes to fruition. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and
yeah.
I think Nasser Hussain was on there, and they were talking about the Lalit Modi tweets and all that, and
Oh yeah,
and he was confronted with it, and he just didn't say anything. He defended the 100, and I was like, what? Why? And Atherton was there as well, I think, and I
yeah,
expected Atherton to well say things against it, but I guess Sky is a big investor in the 100, and they aren't allowed or something. But I just I just don't like that there is a lot of gatekeeping and a censorship.
yes.
That just isn't a healthy environment.
No, not at all. I mean, the 100 is a great example of it, but there are other ones. But someone like Mike Atherton is so good at analyzing things, so good at analyzing cricket, a really good brain, and he's really almost dispassionate in the way he analyzes things and not biased in any way. But even he has to kind of, I
Give
think,
into it.
yeah, turn off his kind of analytical brain when it comes to the 100, and just almost he has to just switch off that side of his brain because I suppose his I don't know if they formally told him and Hussein not to say anything bad about it, but they obviously are intelligent enough to realize that if Sky are promoting it, they can't go on there and slag it off because it's like turkeys voting for Christmas.
No, no, they
And
are.
so yeah,
I think they are told these things because
yeah,
I saw an interview recently, and a commentator said that, well, what happens is you have the director on your ear, and
yeah,
so if you say anything, then the director will immediately like cut your mic off and tell you to do what to do then. So there's a bit
uh,
of overcompensation there. So you do not
yeah,
want to even get to the get near where the line is.
yeah,
So I think
yeah,
they
yeah,
compensate in that process and do not reach where they should. And but I think for someone like Sky and for Mike Atherton, Nasser Hussain,
mm,
they should be able to do these things because in India, well, if you see the BCCI
mm,
box, then they are just praising the BCCI. They won't call anything out. So it was
yeah,
a bit refreshing to watch the Sky thing, but it's biased as well. So now,
yeah, and also the jury's out on Bazball. You can agree or disagree, but Sky definitely took a very pro Bazball position, and it seemed like that was almost like a broadcasting company in America has to be like pro Republican or pro Democrat, and that's the line they take. It's almost like Sky had a line that we are like a pro Bazball line um, uh, organization almost, and we're just always going to kind of big it up and not be as critical. And they're not. I don't know what the reason is because they're not. I don't think they're doing it for sinister reasons or something, but it's almost like they have an editorial line where you'd think in the past people would just speak as they find and just give their own views. So it's
yeah,
like an interesting development.
yeah, I think cricket has changed in that way that people are people are trying to censor things a lot more than before. So that's
Do you even notice it on things like what is it, the Wisdom podcast?
yeah, yeah,
There's a guy, what's his name? Is it Walker? Is it Phil Walker, I think? And you can sense that he wants to kind of say more, but he seems a bit frustrated. Do you ever sense that? There was once like a topic about Lawrence opening the batting, and he just said, oh, he almost just said, I don't agree with it, or and he didn't want to continue or elaborate on what he said. He just seemed a bit disenfranchised. And then when they talk about the 100, he's almost like, I don't really like it, but oh, it's going to raise loads of money. Almost like he has to add that bit, it's going to raise money for the English game. And I feel like almost, I don't know if, again, if these are people are told to have a line when they can't fully express themselves, or they're just a bit fed up with it and a bit disenfranchised with the way cricket's going anyway, and it means they just come across as a bit more disillusioned.
yeah. I think they are bogged down because I'll tell
Mm,
you an incident. Harsha Bhogle was commentating on the 2014 India T20 World Cup. So
yeah,
in that period, he's an unbiased commentator and
yeah, definitely.
he won't be a cheerleader. So
Yeah,
there was a period where I think Dhoni and Yuvraj Singh. Do you remember the final against Sri Lanka?
yeah, okay, Sri Lanka, yeah,
Yeah. So both of them were playing very slowly, and that
yeah,
led to us not getting to a good total at the end. So
yeah,
Harsha Bhogle just said that's unacceptable, and they need to bat better because Kohli was
yeah,
batting freely, and he said
yeah,
that. And after that, Amitabh Bachchan tweeted. I think you know Amitabh Bachchan.
yeah,
So he tweeted on Twitter. He's a famous Indian celebrity. He tweeted there that our commentators do not even praise their own team. And after that,
uh,
Dhoni retweeted that. So and after that, what happened was Harsha Bhogle was removed from the Indian commentary team.
yeah.
Yeah, and
See, that's what we're talking about, really, isn't it? There's like an editorial line.
yeah. So that's a big thing, and they cannot cross it, and so they overcompensate in that process. I think that um, we should get into reviewing the India versus Bangladesh series that has happened
Yeah,
recently now.
yeah,
Uh, well, the first test was Bangladesh looked promising on the back of the
yeah,
Pakistan series in the first day at least.
yeah,
Uh, well, they got Virat Kohli with a pitch and Rohit Sharma,
yeah,
and pitch was doing all sorts. Then
yeah,
Ashwin and Jadeja came in, and from the second day on, it was like how it has been for all the teams coming into India for the past 10 years, just doom and gloom.
yeah,
They capitulated, and well, the story continued on till Kanpur, and uh, all of their energy was gone, and
yeah,
India played really well in the second test. I think uh,
yeah,
well, Rohit Sharma and Gautam Gambhir, damn bowl as they are calling it, it
yeah,
it was good. I think that well, taking the initiative and scoring at what 8.8 and over, that was
yeah.
pretty good. Uh, but I'm a bit uh, disappointed that Virat Kohli couldn't. Did you see the second innings of the first test where he had an inside edge and he got adjudged LBW, a massive inside
But
edge, but he did not review it.
I heard about it, but I didn't see it with my own eyes. I just like read the feed about it. But what's what he didn't realize then that he got the edge.
Yeah, he just wasn't concerned. He went to
Mm,
Shubman Gill. He asked, "Was
mm,
I struck in front?" And
mm,
Shubman Gill actually said to him that review it. He was like, "Nah, never
mm.
mind. I'm out anyways." Like, he was just down and he wanted to get out of the pitch, I think. And
Mm,
that was a bit disappointing as a Virat fan and just
yeah,
seeing him go like that. But yeah, just and in a general Indian cricket sense, I think well, India did what India does. Bumrah did what
mm,
Bumrah does, and
yeah, yeah,
we did well. Yashasvi Jaiswal again is proving to what a talent he is, and
yeah.
he'll be really exciting 2 months, 1 month down the line and down under.
He um he learned a lot from Dockett, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he's his
Yeah.
batting coach, like. So, what do you think of the series, just as a whole?
Well, I thought the first test was interesting because Bangladesh had come off that 2-0 win in Pakistan, so they were kind of as confident as it had ever been, really. Had that great start, like you say, and it just underlined how good and how important Jadeja and Ashwin are. Ashwin, who isn't even considered an all-rounder really, has 6 test centuries now. That's more than Dockett. It might be more or the same as Pope. Um, it it's more than Crawley. I know he's played more games, but he is very reliable with the bat, very reliable in tricky situations. Even in that T20 World Cup in 22, he had a cool head against Pakistan in that game. I think he's got an exceptional temperament. He's he's good and very reliable. Jadeja the same, and they're like an old raincoat that never lets you down. Really, you could just trust them completely. And what would be kind of terrifying is if Hardik came back, you could have Jadeja and Ashwin at 8 and 9 and have a really amazing batting lineup. That would be kind of almost impossible to get out.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That is
that would be amazing. And also, we knew that Boomer was going to bowl well. You know, he's a great player. Um, the second test was interesting from the standpoint of India were 1-0 up. They could have just closed the series up. Like a more conservative coach, I don't know, someone like, I don't know, a good one like Duncan Fletcher, but more conservative, would have just said, we're 1-0 up, don't do anything silly, and, we'll win the series. But there was still that desire to win the second test. And the scoring at 8.8 is amazing in a test match. I just wonder if Bangladesh kind of not underestimated India, but just thought the game was a draw, and they weren't really fully tuned in. Do you know what I mean? They just kind of assumed to themselves it's a draw, and their minds weren't fully focused. Do you think that's the case, or maybe not?
Yeah, yeah, you're correct. They didn't come prepared, and they
No.
didn't adapt at the moment. So it was more like, I think, reminiscent of the England versus New Zealand test last summer
Mm,
in Nottingham, where
yeah,
Trent Bolt playing that game. He just came in and they were bowling at a
yeah,
level, and England was smacking them out of the park. And I
yeah.
think that's what yesterday, no, during the game, Shakib Al
Mm,
Hasan, Mahmood, all these guys were getting carted around the park, and they didn't
yeah,
change their lengths. Just bowl a
yeah.
wide
That was
Yorker. You can play T20 cricket. You do play T20
yeah,
cricket. Just bowl a wide Yorker. I think you're correct in that they didn't prepare enough, and they were just lost for hope when India went after them. I think this is where, not in this topic, but I think
yeah,
basketball can be, there was something to credit about it, because
yeah,
the first test or the first day, I think Tom Hartley was bowling to Yashasvi Jaiswal, and
yeah,
he just pounced on Hartley and hit him a lot, I think.
yeah, yeah,
But Stokes didn't get him off, and I think that was a good decision. For all the bad things they do,
yeah.
he backed his player and didn't let his guard down, which I think
No,
further in the test, as we saw that Hartley got seven wickets and all
yeah,
that. I think having a good environment where you believe in yourself,
mm,
that's key to winning test matches, and Bangladesh
definitely.
have that.
Because I suppose I remember Steve Waugh saying in the early 2000s that his team scored so quickly for those days, like 3 point something and over, that you could actually eliminate a fifth day from a test and just have 4 day tests because of if everyone kind of evolved like his Australia side had evolved, there'd be no need for 5 days. Obviously, if everyone's going at 8.8 and over, you could actually just have 4 day tests, couldn't you? But
Yeah,
obviously, there's weather that can
yeah,
intervene. But it could, it would be interesting. Obviously, that was a special circumstance. But will teams continually go for a higher run rate? I'm not sure they will, but if they did, that would actually change the face of cricket.
yeah, yeah. Yes, so I think that we have discussed India versus Bangladesh now. There,
Mm,
there was another series happening in this period, that was the
mm,
New Zealand versus Bangladesh series, and well, sorry, New Zealand versus Sri Lanka. What am I saying? So yeah,
no,
New Zealand versus Sri Lanka, and they New Zealand got rolled over in the two tests, much like Bangladesh and India, and
mm,
they showed a bit of promise in the first test, or uh, yeah, and Rachin Ravindra was good, but apart from that, I think they didn't turn up, and
mm,
Glenn Phillips played a bit, but the pitch and Gaul, I think, was turning a lot,
mm,
and it needs. I think that if you want to have a fair contest in Test cricket, either you have to have a place where both the teams can have equal amounts of preparation. Obviously, the home team will be better prepared, but
mm,
you can have a situation where the away team comes in, say, 1.5 months before the series, and then they are able to be better prepared for the series,
yeah,
or just prepare more sporting wickets because no one wants to watch an uneven contest. Anyways,
yeah,
I think it was a decent series, and Sri Lanka are in with a good chance of making the World Test Championship
yeah.
final. What do you think?
Yeah, firstly on Sri Lanka, I think it's just shame that some of their batsmen are quite old because their batting lineup is very good. Even when they came to England, I think everyone there averaged 40 plus. Cameron Mendes, I don't want to jinx him, but looks like he could be like a genuinely world class player and like one of the stars of the next few years. Um, their attack is decent. They're a decent side, Sri Lanka, and I think it might be difficult to get to that World Test Championship final still because they've got Australia and South Africa in South Africa. So that's a tricky one, but they've got a good chance. I think with New Zealand, uh, they kind of peaked during that time that they won the World Test Championship, I think, and as a side, test wise anyway, they've been kind of on the way down. Um, they it's like one of these like tours from hell in a way that the first game against Afghanistan was rained off entirely, so they had no practice. They then go to Sri Lanka, lose 2-0, and then they've got India for three tests. And you can see like the wheels coming off. The captain, Saudi, has resigned now, hasn't he? I think Latham's the new captain. So all these things happening. So you get the feeling that if they lost like the first couple of tests in India, or the first test, it would just continue to kind of go in a downward spiral.
Yeah,
Um, that I mean, there was that first test against Sri Lanka was tight. I think New Zealand had their first innings lead, and even up until the last day, there was a chance that they could win it. But the second test, they were just smashed really. And Williamson got out twice in the day, didn't he? That was interesting.
yeah. Yeah, I think they just got rolled over, and
Yeah,
when you bring up the Afghanistan test, and
mm,
I think let's go back to the Kanpur test as well. I think
yeah,
Noida and Kanpur, both of the
mm,
grounds should not be used for international cricket till they are ready
mm,
and have proper systems in place.
yeah,
I don't think you came for the England series to India, but even in the
mm,
Hyderabad, the
yeah,
English fans, the washroom was like it was drained, and there was no proper service. It wasn't clean
mm,
apparently. So I think, as the richest cricket board, what message does it send
yeah,
if you do not have proper facilities
mm,
for touring teams? So I think
yeah,
that's a bit of an issue. Although I have to say that Noida was blacklisted before the
yeah.
match, and Afghanistan chose it specifically. They were given a better stadium, but they chose
Yeah.
Noida. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's a bit of a uh, gray line there. But with
Yeah.
Kanpur, it was completely the BCCI's fault. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you why they picked Kanpur, because Rajiv Shukla, he's
Mm,
the BCCI's vice president, and he's been the
yeah.
vice president for around 50 years now.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a member of Congress here, and
Ah.
yeah, he decides it's his home state and he wants to promote cricket and get some PR for himself.
Yeah.
That's why he wants to have test matches there. No one's not saying that you don't have test matches there, just improve the
No.
facilities. Same with
Yeah.
Noida. And well, we were talking about the New Zealand and Sri Lanka series. I think Kane Williamson, he was in the Fab Four discussion, and I think
Yeah.
he was uh, the best in the 2021 period. Him and Joe
Yeah.
Root just
Yeah.
leapfrogged everyone else. Smith and
Yeah.
Kohli just went behind in the conversation. I think Ross Taylor, Williamson, and
Yeah.
Trent Bolt, Tim
Yeah.
Southee, Wagner was there. These guys,
Yeah.
these guys combined to form a real good force in that period. And
And then they got Conway as well. But when he qualified,
yeah, and
and
then
so that
he scored a
he made
double
them even
century.
better.
Yeah, he scored a double century against England, from what I
Yeah.
remember, in his first
Yeah.
test. So yeah, they had a really good lineup back then, and now it just seems to be falling off. And well, the Sri Lanka series might be a trailer for what comes next as we move on to the India
Yeah.
versus New Zealand series, which is
Yeah.
coming up from the 16th of October. The first test is in
Yeah.
Chinnaswamy, and I think, as you've correctly mentioned earlier, that it's been a horror tour of Asia for them, and I think
Yeah.
it might continue that way in India as well, because well, I do see them preparing India preparing well, sporting wickets and green
Yeah.
wickets in Chinnaswamy, but I really don't see a place where New Zealand compete. But
No.
but I But I'm sure that they'll do better than Bangladesh in some ways. What do you think?
Yeah, they'll definitely do better than Bangladesh did in that second test. You won't get them switching off in a way Bangladesh did, but I think it will still be 3-0 unless I think whatever conditions that India have got that luxury now, whether it's a spinny wicket or a seamy wicket, they're better than New Zealand. So there's no pitch they can prepare when New Zealand have an advantage. And actually, if they prepared a really kind of turning, ragging pitch, that might actually help New Zealand more than them because it takes the skill out of it, and any spinner can get some purchase off it. If it's a kind of normal pitch, India should win. Um, there's the new player O'Rourke is an interesting one for New Zealand. The fast bowler. He's actually born in England and plays for New Zealand. It's like the reverse of how it normally is. It's normally born in New Zealand and play for England.
Yeah.
So that's quite funny. But he seems like a good prospect. But I don't know if he. I mean, it's going to be very difficult for him against that batting lineup, isn't it? But he does seem a good prospect. But maybe it would be asking too much for him there. Glenn Phillips with his occasional spin might be dangerous. Depending on how the wickets turn. He's also a good batsman and an excellent fielder. So he's someone who's always good to kind of watch out for. But I just think India are too strong at home anyway, and they're too strong for this New Zealand side.
Yeah, yeah. New Zealand's a really interesting one, because the only team which went away with a draw, like the last
Yeah,
time New Zealand came to India, it was
yeah,
a two-test series and they
yeah,
got 1-0. So India won
yeah,
1-0. And the
yeah,
second test, Jas Patel and
yeah,
who was it with him? I think it was William Somerville. Both
yeah.
of them played out 15 overs. Like I think it was
Mm.
reminiscent of the Panisar and Anderson game.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
In
they
Cardiff.
just they just blocked out the last 15
Yeah,
overs and it was
yeah,
really like it was heart wrenching as a fan for me. So
yeah,
I think if New Zealand can walk away with a 2-0 result
yeah,
or somehow just get one draw in there or one win in there,
yeah.
that will be huge for them.
Because theirs is interesting in the sense that this on these tours, they would have played six tests, two against Sri Lanka, one Afghanistan, three India. But at home, they're only playing three tests this in their summer. They're just playing England for three tests, and the rest are just ODIs and T20s.
Oh,
So
I didn't know
they're
that.
not playing. Yeah, they're not playing many tests really.
Oh, that's a bit of a shocker, but I think that well, but I don't really know why because didn't they sell out all of their tickets for the England series?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
wonder if that was the reason though, in a sense that there was only three tests to sell.
okay, that might be it then. But yeah, I think New Zealand as a prospect now is Trent Bolt coming to India for New Zealand? I don't think he is. So
No, I don't. I
he
didn't think so.
yeah, so he's given up his contract. I think
Yeah.
uh, they might
Didn't Williamson kind of give up a contract or take a different type of contract as well?
no, I don't think he's given up his contract.
Or did he turn down a longer one? There was
Yeah,
something
yeah.
about
He
maybe
was
that was
offered
it.
a 3-year contract, I think, and he
Yeah.
took a 1-year one or something like
Ah, okay, that's it. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, you mentioned Willow Rourke. I think he's a good prospect, but India is not a good place for debuters
No,
or new players. So I think uh, he might do decently, but I don't see him blowing apart the charts here.
no.
He'll get Virat Kohli. You can write it down right now that first test Virat Kohli edges it to second slip Willow Rourke. He Virat loves giving away his wickets to new bowlers, so that will definitely happen. You mentioned Glenn Phillips. Well, he's a
Yeah,
wicket keeper, and
yeah,
as much as I like Glenn Phillips,
yeah.
he's not a proper off spinner, and if
No.
he's your lead spinner and he's your threatening spinner, then I'm sorry you cannot you cannot win in India. You cannot even try to win in India.
I suppose he's a very modern player in a sense. He can do everything. He's very fit, excellent fielder. Hit the ball a long way. Can chip in with doing off spinning if you want. He's a very modern player, isn't he? In that sense.
Yeah, you're correct, but if you come to the subcontinent for a test
Mm.
match, you want a proper spinner, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
understand that he's a very good player and all that, but
yeah,
well, uh, at the end of the day, he's just a bits and pieces, a really good
yeah,
bits and pieces
yeah,
spinner. Whereas you want someone like, say, Daniel Vittori. who could come in
Yeah,
and just
yeah,
bowl at one spot for all that time. So
and could bat as well.
yeah, could bat as well, and was a really good tactician for New Zealand.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
something as well. Who else do they have as spinners? I think Ajaz Patel is there. He picked up 10 wickets in an innings last time in India, and there's there's this guy Mitchell Santner is there. I
yeah.
don't
He's
think
there.
Rachin Ravindra may bowl a bit of spin, but I don't think they have any other spinners. So basically, two proper spinners.
Yeah.
Santner is not a out and out spinner again, and
No,
they have
I think Santner would not be picked if he were worse with the bat. I think a lot of the reason that he's picked is because of his batting skills. A bit like when England used to pick Dom Bess, and you think he's he wouldn't get there if he was like a number 11 batsman. Because Santner's like an all rounder basically, isn't he? And he can score hundreds.
Yeah, Bess is an interesting one. I remember in the 2021 series, in the
Mm.
first test, he picked up 4 wickets in an
Yeah,
innings. I remember he got Kohli
yeah,
or something. Yeah,
yeah,
so he was really good. And in the last of the 3 tests, he got smacked around everywhere. So
yeah. He seemed to lose confidence as the tour went on, then never played again for England.
yeah, that's the thing. But I think Bess was a more what he was more of a bowler than a batter.
Yeah,
Whereas with Santner, he's more of an all-rounder. So I
yeah,
think it's a bit different there. Uh,
yeah,
overall, I think if Kane Williamson turns up, there's a
yeah.
chance they compete. But otherwise,
Mm.
it's going to be a meek show as it has been in India for 20.
Yeah,
So I think that
really.
there's another series coming up right now.
Yeah,
It's England
yeah,
versus Pakistan, the big one
yeah,
for now.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
team has been announced.
yeah.
So the golfers are at it again, and Ben Stokes ain't playing. Ollie
Yeah,
Pope, the lead golf player who played in the PGA recently, he will
yeah,
captain England for the test match. How does it
yeah.
feel having a golfer play for your test side?
It's it's
Captain
it's
your
really
test side.
yeah. Um, I wanted to get Nick Faldo, but we've got Ollie Pope. But I think it's amazing when you look at it. Just oh, I know we're like joking, but it is a bit chilling in a sense where you think if they could, most of these players do actually prefer golf to cricket. It's quite funny. You think, bloody hell, why am I watching this if they prefer golf to cricket themselves? Because I remember that Ollie Pope was he the ECB I think sanctioned resting him for the last couple of county games of the season. So I don't know if it was his decision or the ECB's, but rather than go to the Oval to watch Surrey win the league, his county, he's been there all his life, he chose to play a pro-am golf game, and you just think, wow, these when England prepared for the Ashes last year, they prepared by playing golf in Scotland, and and so you really get the impression that if they could, they'd just be playing golf. The Jimmy Anderson, who's the bowling coach, has actually delayed his arrival at Pakistan to play at St Andrews. I think he's playing with Michael Vaughan in the golf tournament. So it's really amazing that it's um it people might think it's like a glib thing to say or like a kind of jibe, but they do give a real impression of a team that prefers golf. And I wonder if you were to do a proper survey, like an anonymous survey with the players, what percentage would say they preferred playing golf to playing cricket? It seems like it would be the majority, but it would be good to get that survey going.
Yeah, you're correct on that. I think most countries play golf. It's not just limited to England.
No,
Australia too does. But the problem
yeah,
is that, like you've said, it seems like their priority is golf and
yeah,
cricket is a second thing. Like if you have time, I'll play cricket, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, but
It's like,
yeah,
but
go
it's
on.
what it's like. It's like if a lot of people go to work and then they go to work and then when they get home from work, their enjoyment is watching cricket. Whereas the cricketers, or the England cricketers more specifically, it seems like the cricket is their work. Once they get financial remuneration from playing cricket, they then spend it on what they really do like, which is golf. And
Yeah,
it's a bit of it's a funny thing for a fan really to kind of compute.
yeah, and even if they want to play golf, I think they could do
Yeah,
it in a better way. Just not go on and play in a publicized tournament. If you
yeah,
want to play
exactly.
golf,
Yeah,
if you want to play golf, go to a
yeah,
private golf course and play with your
yeah,
mates. No,
yeah, yeah,
don't get it on the media. You know that there's going
yeah,
to be outrage. You're inviting out
yeah,
because
definitely.
when you put it out everywhere, then you're just saying that we don't care about the fans. Like Harry Brooks
Yeah,
said, and well, at the end of the day, it's the English fan which is paying you. So
yeah,
So if you're going to act nonchalant, and I get trying to be nonchalant and trying
Mm,
to build an environment where people are stress free and all that, but
yeah.
it just gives out the wrong message. It just feels as if you do not care about the sport at all. And
And also, if they're trying to promote the sport, if they're saying we're trying to save Test cricket, or we're bringing in the 100 to bring a new base into a new fan base, but at the same time they're saying, well, actually, the sport we like best is golf. It's a weird message, isn't it?
yeah, it's all
It
a
seems
bit
contradictory.
it's all a bit messed up with them. Like we alluded to in the last podcast, they
Yeah,
they just speak of the Ashes and do not speak of other tours, and that is counterintuitive to what their message was. And so that's a bit like you do not understand what they try to do. It's just baseball. You go along with baseball. That's the baseball way of doing things, I guess.
but I mean,
Yeah,
but it's
getting
funny that they seem to be like treating this very lightly. I mean, they've only just kind of turned up this week for a game that starts on Monday, and the bowling coach isn't even there. They didn't know whether Stokes was going to be fit or not. That the side they picked's a bit peculiar, and I wonder if they're taking Pakistan a bit lightly, really.
Yeah, I think that might be it because getting into the exact series, I think
Mm,
Pakistan has been down and out, and
yeah,
it's not a secret that Pakistan has been very bad for the past
yeah,
2 years. They
yeah,
have lost 10 tests. The last 10 tests
mm,
they have lost at home.
yeah,
That's an abysmal record, let's be honest, because they
yeah,
haven't won for 1,355 days at home. The last win was against South Africa in
yeah,
2021.
yeah,
They do not know what combination works for them. Their lead pacers, I think
yeah,
Shaheen Shah Afridi is injured and all of that.
yeah,
Uh, so I think that uh, England may be underestimating them, but I think
yeah,
a Pakistan which is cornered, they have they have the ability to bounce back, and
yeah, like cage tigers.
they are the mercurial. They are the epitome of what mercurial stands for. They
Yeah,
can be completely down in the trenches one day and be the
yeah,
kings of the world another day. So I think
definitely.
England
And
might,
there's talent there.
yeah, England might encounter one day, one good day of Pakistan cricket, and they might just be blown over in that day, and they might
Yeah.
not be prepared for it. And I think that's a real possibility, and I think it should happen. Honestly, I think they deserve to be a little humbled, if that's the correct word.
And also, I wonder why they are so confident because if you actually look at that 11, it doesn't look that great, really. The England 11. If you got Crawley's just come back from injury with Dockett. Those two hardly ever make centuries. Pope at three, who struggles against spin. He's also not a particularly good captain either. Root's obviously world class. Brooke should be doing better than he is at the moment, so hopefully you can bank on him. Smith, it's his first tour as a keeper, and it's a bit different keeping in Asia than it is in England. And then you've got Wokes at seven, who I don't think is a number seven. We talked about Ashwin, who's a number eight for India. He's got 6 Test centuries. Wokes at seven only has one in 50 odd tests, so I don't know if he's a number seven. Also, he has very rarely got wickets abroad. He's really a specialist in England, in English conditions, but with the English ball, not with a kookaburra abroad. So it's strange that he's at the age of 35 and a half or whatever. All of a sudden, they thought, well, he's going to just magically become a good bowler overseas. That's a bit bizarre to me. Cars is okay. Atkinson's a prospect, and then Leach and Bashir. That isn't doesn't suggest to me that it's a team that can go in overconfident. It doesn't seem to me like a. I don't know many of those players. If many of those players will get into other sides in the world, Um, I don't think Sri Lanka would have many of those players. For instance, I don't think. I think it's almost like they've got a kind of dysmorphic view of the team that it's better than it actually really is. Um, I don't know why it is. I don't know if it's arrogance or just a team spirit or a positive way of looking at things. But that it's a much weaker side, I think, than they realize.
Yeah, yeah, you're correct. Because I think the last time around they had Anderson or
Yes.
Robinson and Wood. So
Yeah.
all three of them were right on the money. And in
Yeah.
Pakistani wickets, you have reverse swing. That's the only thing
Yeah.
you have to work with. And
Yeah.
they were brilliant that time. I was watching it, I remember, and well,
Yeah.
uh, they were outperforming. They were somewhere near what you'd imagine. Well, Wakar and Wasim, not
Yeah.
level, but maybe say half of that. But I do
Yeah.
not really see how Bryden Cast, and
No.
it's not a disrespect to Bryden Cast, because
No.
but he's just not experienced enough in those
No.
conditions. Atkins,
No.
Vokes, and as you've rightly pointed out, I don't think Vokes is a number seven, and
No.
it might get exposed. It might well get exposed.
Yeah.
Has Ben Duckett been to Pakistan? Was he there last time?
Yeah. Last time he got 100 in that first test at I think it was at Rawalpindi. You know that when they had like 500 in a day. That was like his return to Test cricket.
Oh, I do not actually remember was he was there or not. I think I was too caught up with the Yashasvi Jaiswal coach thing that I everything faded about Duckett before that. Yeah, I think there's a mission which I didn't really like. I thought they should have picked Ben Folks. I think he's a
Mm,
good addition. He'd be a good addition for this series because I think his glove work had been really nice in India. They,
yes.
I think I see where they come from. They want to have a batter more than a keeper. They do not want
Mm,
a specialist keeper, but
mm.
I think folks would be suited to Pakistani and Asian conditions overall.
He went there last time round. He got there was an illness in the camp, and he didn't play in the first couple of tests, but played in the third one and got a 50. So did fine. And the first two tests they had Pope keeping, and he obviously because he's not a proper keeper, he wasn't as comfortable. But it seems like they don't see the keeper as a specialist position really. I think they just see maybe because Brendan McCullum himself was a kind of a batsman keeper rather than a keeper batsman. That's how he sees it. Do you think that could be the case?
Yeah, I think they do not really mind about the wicket keeping skills as
No,
they just care about how many runs you can score. So,
yeah, and the
like
strike rate as well.
yeah, because I think you know Saha, Riddhiman Saha for India as
Oh
well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was a really good keeper. I think he's the best wicket keeper of the 21st century. It's a
Oh
bit
wow,
of a stretch, but
yeah,
personally it was that. But they played Rishabh Pant, so I think that's the same thing with England, where they do not really mind if there's the odd drop catch, if the
yeah,
player can make more runs for them. So
yeah,
that's their perspective. What do you make of Jack Leach and Shoaib Bashir? I think they did a good move bringing back Leach because honestly,
yeah,
he's been really good in India, and snubbing
yeah,
him was wrong, honestly, because and Hartley as well. I don't see
yeah.
Hartley in the 15, so that's shocking to me.
It's really weird because they picked Hartley for India because of his like the trajectory of his arm basically, and he actually did well. So it was actually a successful kind of left field pick. And then they haven't picked him since. You think, well, why is that? Because the other good thing about him was he could actually bat as well. So
Yeah,
he'd bring more. Uh, at, at at this current time, it was you would get you the same results as Bashir or more, and score you more runs. But I think they just thought, again, planning for the Ashes, that they thought Bashir was a better bet, or he would be in like a year and a half's time, and that's why they did it. But right now, right this present moment, Leach is England's best spinner. But they just wanted to kind of build for the future in the summer just gone, so they picked Bashir. But Leach will get the most wickets, I think, in this series for England.
yeah. There was a very nice comment in your Twitter accounts. I saw someone said they should rename them to Rebuilding 11. They are rebuilding every
Oh
time.
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and that was really funny. They are
Yeah.
rebuilding every time in all formats. So uh, I think there was another guy like Liam Dawson. He could be picked.
Yes.
He should be picked, I think, because he's
Yeah.
been performing really well, and just on merit he gets into the English side. But I
Yeah.
don't know why they don't pick him.
There's something up there, I think, because he was the best option because they like players who've got another string to their bow. He's an excellent fielder and he's an all rounder as well, and he gets wickets. And he's even though he's got a bit older now, he's actually kind of like in his prime. And when Leach got injured before the Ashes last year, he was probably the best option to pick, but they went for Moeen Ali. That was fair enough. Moeen Ali is a talented player. It's just that he hadn't played 4-day cricket in a number of years, so he wasn't kind of match fit, and he got injured during the first test. And Dawson would have been a better bet. Dawson could also have been selected for the in the squad for the T20 World Cup that's just gone. They ignored him there, and he definitely should have been on the plane to India. And I just wonder if he kind of wanted assurances because he didn't want to be messed around. He didn't want to come out carrying the drinks when he could be playing playing in a franchise league and getting money that way because he's not contracted. So I wonder if how much was him and how much was them. Um, and did they say to him, "You're coming, but we can't guarantee you a starting spot"? And then he thought, "Well, I could be playing in one of these franchise leagues." He plays in the PSL a lot, doesn't he? I could be making money in the franchise league, or is it just a personality thing? Maybe I don't know if Key or Brendan McCollum are big fans of his. I don't know what it is, but you would think on merit this guy deserves to be in the side.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's more of the personality bit because
Hmm.
honestly, if you wanted to hand him over another contract, it's not a big deal. You
No, no,
can hand him over a 3-year contract. They have been
yeah,
handing them out at like pies or candy shops, so that's not a big thing.
yeah,
Yeah, they should if they wanted to. I just think that he does not fit into the culture which they are prescribing right now or something like that. But that's just ridiculous, isn't it? Like if you've got a good
yeah.
player, you do not keep him out of the 11. You just pick the
No,
best players for the situation.
it's interesting you say that because McCollum had this policy at New Zealand. He called it a no dickheads policy. I don't know if you read that somewhere. Um, and where he wouldn't allow people he perceived as dickheads into the side, even if they might be as good as the players that they had or better. No, I'm not. I don't think Liam Dawson's a dickhead in inverted commas, but maybe there's part of his personality that Brendan McCollum doesn't like or rubs him up the wrong way. Um, I don't know. That's the only kind of thinking. That's the only kind of possible explanation, really. Maybe he's not his type of bloke. There's a part of his character he doesn't he doesn't like for some reason, or he's not one of the guys. He's not. I don't know. I'm only speculating, but because we have to speculate because it doesn't make any sense from a cricket perspective, and that's why we're speculating like this. It's not like idle gossip. It's just it's very peculiar that one of the most suitable player isn't picked. So you have to ask what the reasons are.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right there. I think it's just that thing. They have a personality thing which if
Mm,
he does not fit, then he will not be picked. I think.
yeah.
Rob Key was there. I think there was a uh, interview where Nas Atherton and him and
Mm,
Ian Ward, they were all together, and Mark Butcher was there. I think it was
yeah.
2 months ago, and he was just discussing what goes on behind the scenes, and he just said that we have a way of doing things, and if someone doesn't get into our 11, then he does not. But
Yeah.
that's just wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Coming on to the Pakistan squad,
Yeah.
I'll list the squad out for you.
Yeah.
Shan
Yeah.
Masood, Saud
Yeah.
Shakil, Amir
Yeah.
Jamal, Abdullah
Yeah.
Shafiq, Abrar Ahmed, Babar
Mm,
Azam, Mir Hamza, Mohammad Hurera, Mohammad Rizwan, Naseem
mm,
Shah, Noman Ali, Saeem Ayub, Salman Ali Agha,
yeah.
Sarfaraz Ahmed, Shaheen Shah Afridi.
Yeah. It's see some of those players on paper at least are better than the ones that England have got in their 11.
Yeah,
Um, now that they're in bad form for whatever reason, or they haven't been organised, or whatever the reason is. This the, like the whiteboard team. It seems like Baba Azam keeps getting sacked, then rehired, and there's a lot of kind of it seems a bit ad hoc and all over the place. But there is talent there. I mean, Masood I've seen play for Yorkshire. I saw him play I think this year against Middlesex at Lords. He's not a bad player. Rizwan is obviously a world-class player. Baba Azam was amazing a few years ago, and I don't know why. I think were you saying that he'd had there was a technical change in his batting that made him worse now, or is that what you think's happened? Because he was brilliant a few years ago.
yeah, yeah. Babar Azam had a change where he closed himself off. Like he used
Mm,
to be a very open batter, and then he went
yeah,
side on or something like that. He just
yeah.
he couldn't access the ball which was in his leg stump, so he got bowled and LBW a lot. And
Mm,
I think Jared Kimber, the cricketing goat,
yeah.
he pointed it out to him, and as the story goes, he scored a century in the Champions Cup which they played, which
Yeah.
again is another Pakistan cricket special to have a
Mm.
50 over ODI tournament right before a marquee series, which I think all Pakistan fans will just be breaking their TV screens because of that. I'm catering to the stereotype, but I'm sorry if this offended someone. But uh, uh, just just that was ridiculous to have a Champions Cup running before a marquee series, and you're
I
paying.
I heard that. I heard that's because they're prioritizing the ICC trophy,
Yeah, you
and
could
so
just have it
that
after
was the reason they said,
the, like I'd say have it after the England series.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so they paid around $500,000 to each
mm,
mentor. Uh, can you imagine? They paid
yeah,
$500,000 to a mentor.
yeah.
So that's $2.5 million. Half of their broadcasting revenue goes to the mentor. So
That's
they
amazing.
just do things their own way. It's the Pakistan way, I guess. Uh, and they have prepared. I think I saw the first test. It's a
Mm,
green strip.
yeah,
I expect the grass to be trimmed down a bit,
yeah.
but I think that they'll just follow what they did with Bangladesh.
Mm.
They'll prepare a green strip and hope the toss goes their way.
But it's weird that we've picked two spinners. So if it is green, I don't know why we've done that.
Because I think that it isn't green for long.
Yeah.
It seems for the first day, and then after that it goes placid.
So definitely win the toss and ball.
Yeah, definitely win the toss and
Mm,
bowl. It's the best thing to do. I think in the Pakistan squad they have their spinners are Noman Ali and
mm,
there's one more guy Zakir Muhammad or someone like that. I don't
yeah.
know how he bowls or something like that, but uh, Noman Ali was not good. I think we discussed about him
Mm,
yesterday where he went for a lot of runs and didn't pick up a
mm,
wicket. He's a bit boy
yeah.
and all that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
in their fast bowling stocks, they have Shaheen Shah, Afridi, and Naseem Shah.
Now,
Well,
what's happened to Freedy, because he was really good.
yeah, he was really good,
Good.
and he got a hamstring injury last
Mm,
year. After that, he's dropped down 20 kilometers in pace, and he cannot get the swing he
uh,
used to, the lateral movement which he was so lethal with. So that's
yeah.
gone. I do not really I just don't like that, because it was so good watching Shaheen Shah Afridi. I
Yeah.
remember in the 2021 T20
Yeah.
World Cup against I think you saw that game against India in Dubai.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
he was unplayable at that moment. Bowled 150 clicks, swinging it around both sides and all that. And now
And then the following one, he got injured in the final, didn't he? That was quite helpful to England. Remember, he was bowling a good spell, then he pulled up
yeah,
after getting injured fielding.
yeah,
He looked really good in that tournament as well.
he was bowled 200 overs by Pakistan this year. I just don't think
Mm,
that you play a fast bowler that much. There needs to be
no.
workload management for him. And
Yeah.
he was asked this question recently in a podcast where
Mm,
uh, he was said that why don't you skip some franchise leagues or
mm,
some use
yeah.
bilaterals? So he was like, well, Wasim and Wakar used to bowl hundreds of overs
Yeah.
every month, so I will also do that. I think it was not coming from him. It was a
Yeah.
comment that was forced on him to say because
Ah,
no fast bowler plays that many amount of games.
no, 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 no. And yeah, because I think I remember he was playing for the Welsh hula hoops in the 100. And I think he might have left to join the Canadian League, or he was going to join the Canadian League. I don't know if he did in the end. So he does play a lot of franchise cricket.
Yeah, he does play a lot of franchise cricket, and he plays in every single bilateral series. He does not care if it's played against Zimbabwe or Kenya. He will
No,
play all of them, and it's not his fault. I think it's the PCB which compels him to play all of that, and that's just wrong. They change coaches every single
mm,
day, and the chairman is not constant. They are focusing on the Champions Trophy. Well, I'll be
mm,
honest.
mm,
I don't see it happening completely in
mm,
Pakistan. It will probably be a
mm,
hybrid model where the rest of the
yeah,
world gets carried out in Pakistan and India goes to play in the UAE. So there's a
yeah,
lot of harakiri happening in Pakistan cricket all the time, like it has been. It's been
yeah,
down for a long time, and I think their coach is Jason Gillespie this time, the test
yeah.
coach. Uh,
Did you find it strange because they split the coaches as well, and they had Kirsten as the white ball coach and Gillespie as the test coach. Obviously, Kirsten has done well in both in his career, but I think Kirsten's a much better manager than Gillespie myself. Do you?
yeah, I think Kirsten's a better man, but they had some sort of like they wanted to do it for the sake of it, just separate the
Mm.
teams. So they did it.
Yeah.
So uh,
But you
well,
see, I think with Kirsten, he's been there and done it as a coach. He won the World Cup with India, didn't he? He was great at South Africa as a coach, and obviously he was a good player. With Gillespie, I think he might be a bit overhyped. So he did okay in county cricket as a coach, and and that's about it. He's got a lot of kind of. He's one of these guys who like to make a lot of statements about his kind of political views. I think he's a vegan. He sometimes talks about having like a kind of Aboriginal ancestors and being proud of that when he was playing for Australia. But if you're just looking purely at his kind of output as a coach, I, I, I don't know if it was the right decision for Pakistan to appoint him. I don't think I don't think he's maybe of that caliber to be high enough caliber to be Pakistan coach myself.
Yeah, but I think it was just a decision like whatever feels the best. Mohsin Naqvi, that's it.
Mm,
I think he just went and thought, I'll pick this guy. And he
yeah,
didn't see anything. And they offered like $1.5 million to them
mm,
just as a PR exercise. I just think that you're correct. They should have picked someone better. They could have picked someone from Pakistan, Basim
yeah,
Akram or
yeah.
Bakar Yunus, but they chose Gillespie, and well, we'll see how he fares against England. He didn't fare really well against Bangladesh. What are your
No,
predictions for the series? Best run scorer and who wins the series and what scoreline? And most wickets.
okay. Top top run scorer for England, I think. Root. Um, Pakistan, I might go for Rizwan. Wicket taker Leach. Um, Pakistan, I might go Abrar actually. And then the score line, I think it's going to be maybe England 2-1. Just, I think it's going to be a 2-1 score line, and there's going to be three tight games, and someone's going to win 2-1, or just go England. What about you?
Yeah, I think that the highest run scorer from England will be Jamie Smith. It's a bold call, but I think Jamie Smith will be the highest run scorer for England.
Yeah.
And for Pakistan, I think it'll be Babar Azam. I think he'll
Okay.
find he'll find a new ray of form. And
Yeah.
the highest wicket takers from England, I think, will be Jack Leach. Yeah, Jack Leach, you're correct.
Yeah.
And from Pakistan, I fancy from Naseem Shah. I think he's going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's going to play a good part in that series. And I think the score line will be 1-1.
Oh, 1-1. Wow. You think there's going to be a draw, even though Baz hates them?
Yeah, I think they cannot avoid a draw. I think there'll be a draw in Multan or Rawalpindi. Yeah, yeah. So I think those are the predictions, and I think we have covered enough on this podcast now.
Yeah.
Uh, we've had a good time, and I think
Yeah, definitely.
we've covered all the topics as of now.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next week on the next week's podcast. And if you have
Okay.
any questions, just leave them in the comment section. I think we've answered all of them in the way we
Yeah, we've covered them all in this show.